Welcome back. Sundiata Acoli was a member of the Black Panther Party. He's now an 84-year-old political prisoner who has been behind bars, caged, for almost 50 years. But the fight to release him is not over. On May 2nd, 1973, Acoli was stopped on the New Jersey Turnpike along with Black Liberation Army members Assata and Zaid Shakur. After an altercation, State Trooper Warner Forster and Zaid Shakur were both killed. Sundiata Acoli and Assata Shakur were then sentenced to life in prison with first-degree murder charges. Acoli has been eligible for parole since 1993, but for the last 30 years, all of his parole requests have been denied for reasons such as lack of remorse or insufficient counseling, in spite of the fact that he has a perfect disciplinary record. Joining me now to discuss this and what can be done is Sophia Elijah. She's an attorney and advocate for the release of Sundiata Acoli, and Reverend Lukata Mjumbe, pastor at the Witherspoon Street Presbyterian Church. Thank you both for joining me. Sophia, I'm going to start. Lukata, since 1992, he has been eligible for parole. We're talking about literally 30 years of parole denials. How does this happen? Why is this happening?
Well, when we understand what's happening here in New Jersey, and we understand what happens with those who are identified as political prisoners throughout this country, this is not about justice. This is not about fairness. This is not about even following the processes that are set in place for everyone else. This is anger. This is political vengeance. And this is now abuse of a senior citizen. So we continue to fight. We continue to make appeals. We continue to reach out to the governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy. We have a petition with almost 10,000 signatures now, calling on the governor and all of those who are able to make a change to bring Sundiata home. 27 years without a disciplinary infraction. Someone who is teaching classes on how to be a good prisoner. He's met every single solitary condition for parole in the state of New Jersey. However, he has not met the standard that satisfies those who are more interested in political repression and vengeance than in justice and in fairness and healing and moving forward.
Sophia, that's an important point. I mean, they literally have him teaching a course for young people and for other incarcerated people on how to not go back to prison. He's teaching an anti-recidivism course. That means they're saying that he is a model enough prisoner and a model enough person that he can help other people not do anything wrong in prison and to stop them from doing something wrong when they get out. How can they justify putting him in charge of that at the same time that they're saying he doesn't have the qualifications to leave prison on parole?
Absolutely.
Lukata, this is not just the case of someone who's been incarcerated for a long time for a crime that the state deems heinous. This is about being a political prisoner. I mean, when we look at the context of his incarceration, the context of Jalil Muntaqin, right, the context of Sekou Odinga, and we could go on and on and on. If we just look at former members of the Black Panther Party in particular, they got extraordinarily long sentences. Then on top of that, they're routinely denied parole for those sentences. And sometimes they even say it's the heinousness of the crime that is the justification for denying someone parole. So if you give me a sentence with parole, my crime doesn't change. My charges don't change. My conviction doesn't change. So there's nothing I can do to change what I've allegedly done, if I even did it. And many of these people were railroaded. We know that. But my point is, you can't use the crime as evidence of why I don't get parole, because if that's the case, then you were never giving me parole in the first place. If my disciplinary record doesn't fix it, if the fact that I'm no longer a threat to society doesn't fix it, if the fact that I'm aging and maybe even dying in some of the cases we've seen doesn't fix it, what are we going to do? I mean, in the case of Jalil Muntaqin, it took him 50 years to get out. You know, talk to me just about the political dimension of this and how this is effectively, in my estimation, a punishment for political prisoners.
I remember when I was in college and Nelson Mandela was released from prison in South Africa after 27 years. And I couldn't believe that someone would be in prison for 27 years. I could not have imagined that 48 years after Sundiata was put in prison that he would still be there. But if we're looking for a fair, logic, reasonable answer that answers for why men and women like Mumia Abu-Jamal, or like Sundiata Acoli, or so many others throughout the history of the struggle for civil rights and human rights and liberation in this country are in prison. We won't find it. The reality is it's vengeance. The reality is it's a death penalty on layaway. The reality is that yes, every legal requirement has been met. And the courts have even acknowledged that in the past. Yet we continue to have to fight a political fight. And what we're trying to do is to help people to understand is that this political fight is now something that even those who do not have left of center political politics, they can understand. I have elderly people in my church that are asking me, wait a minute, an 84-year-old grandfather is still in prison after 48 years, 27 years of without any infractions. He's teaching a class. What is wrong here? Well, we do have an answer, and the answer is that we have vengeance. We have politics that are in place of justice, and it is so important, as Sophia mentioned, that we come together, that we speak to Governor Phil Murphy. The governor is up for the primary in New Jersey this month, in the month of June, and he's asking for people to give support, and we have to state very clearly that it is unacceptable. It is morally, politically, legally unacceptable for our senior citizens to be dying in prison because they stood up and spoke out for freedom and for justice. I don't argue anymore about what happened in 1973. Because for whatever it is that happened, Sundiata Acoli has served every single day, month, year in full. And now it is time for us to bring Sundiata home. So thank you, Mark, for giving us the opportunity to share this and to communicate to your listeners the importance that we speak up. Because Sundiata said to me a long time ago, he said, the state doesn't decide when political prisoners come home. The people do. And we have to make that decision that it's time to bring Sundiata home.
Organized people defeat organized power every single time. We're going to free every single political prisoner. And as long as there's a show here, there'll be a space to talk about it. Thank you both for joining me, and send my love
Thank you, brother.
and solidarity with Sundiata for me, please.